They say that once a brisket hits 140 degrees Fahrenheit, it just stops taking on more smoke. Like there's some sort of magical force field that says no more smoke beyond this point. Whoa there, buddy. I'm at 140 now. You know the rules. No more smoke for me. Oh, sorry, Jim. My bad. Okay, catch you next time. Does it work like that, or does the brisket continue to take on smoke well past 140? We're gonna find out in this video, and you're gonna learn a useful tip to make your brisket smokier, so let's get smoking. The version of this claim that I hear the most is that briskets only take smoke on until 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and after that there's no point in smoking it anymore, so you might as well just wrap it and put it in the oven. But what do the experts have to say about that? According to meathead Goldwyn, colder, wetter meat attracts more smoke particles due to the effects of condensation and the natural tendency of small particles to stick to moist surfaces. So one explanation could be that meat is usually colder and moister below 140 internal, so smoke sticks to it better. But if you've ever cooked a brisket before, you'll know that that is not true. In fact, the opposite is true. Usually briskets are dry at the start of the cook, and then they start sweating out a lot of moisture past around 140, 145, 165, and they get really wet and sweaty. So that theory doesn't really make a lot of sense. Moving on to modernist cuisine. Modernist cuisine says it's a myth that only raw food absorbs smoke flavor. They claim that as long as the food stays moist, aromatic vapors will continue to absorb into the meat, and they think that this myth arose from case hardening, where you overly dry out the exterior of the meat or sausage casing at the very early stage of the cook, and then that will create a barrier that prevents smoke from getting onto the meat. So it appears that keeping the meat wet throughout the cook has a lot to do with it, but what about the smoke ring? Does it stop as soon as we hit 140 internal? Let's talk about that for a second using this janky, partially frozen brisket. Meat is red because it contains a type of protein called myoglobin, which holds on to oxygen. Myoglobin has an iron atom at its core, not to scale obviously. This is the iron atom, this is the myoglobin surrounding it, and that iron atom can bond with different gases that are diffusing into the meat, changing the meat's color. Normally when you cook meat, heat denatures this myoglobin, it loses its oxygen and it oxidizes, turning brown or gray. But when nitric oxide or carbon monoxide interacts with the iron atom at the center of the myoglobin, before it denatures, they bond to the iron atom, forming nitrosyl myoglobin or carboxymyoglobin. Both of these are heat-stable pigments, which means that they'll stay pink even as the meat cooks well above 140 degrees, 165 degrees. It'll just stay pink forever. Now, this chemical reaction with the myoglobin and the nitric oxide or carbon monoxide only occurs if the myoglobin is not denatured. That means it's not totally burnt and destroyed to the point it can't react with other molecules. And I've seen a lot of claims that myoglobin denatures at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It's some sort of magical number, and you can't get a smoke ring past 140 degrees internal. But according again to meathead Goldwyn, the smoke ring actually continues to form up until around 170 degrees internal, and based on my experience, I think this is closer to reality. Now, what about real-life experiments on the subject? Well, Jeremy Yoder recently tested this claim, and he found that a brisket smoked all the way until it was done on the smoker was more smoky than one that was smoked in the oven to 140 degrees Fahrenheit then placed on the smoker afterwards. But some people in the comments said, hey, wait a minute, Jeremy, you cooked the brisket in the oven to 140, then smoked it. What you should have done is smoked it first to 140, then finished it in the oven, because the claim originated from the belief that you're only getting smoke flavor up to 140. You're not getting any more smoke flavor after that, so you might as well take it off the smoker, wrap it, and put it in the oven after 140. So that's what I'm going to do in this video with at least one of the briskets. Thus concludes our review of the literature on the subject, and I have a few takeaways. First of all, most experts agree that moist meat attracts more smoke flavor, so spritzing your meat is a good strategy to get more smoke flavor on it, and it also helps with the smoke ring formation up until the myoglobin denatures in the meat, at which point the smoke ring won't form anymore. But what point is that? Is it 140? Probably not. It could be up to 170. It might even be a little bit higher than that. Just after reading a lot of the articles and what the experts have to say about this subject, I'm starting to think that it was just one of those myths that came about because people were like, you know what, I really want to take my brisket off the smoker early and wrap it and put it in the oven because I don't want to sit out here tending the fire all day. I want to go to bed. So this was a convenient excuse, but we won't know until we test it out. So I'm starting with a choice grade Costco brisket, but looks like we have a problem here. Now, I only have a choice grade brisket, so I need to get 2 more briskets, and unfortunately, Costco isn't open yet this early in the morning, so I need to go to Wholesale Club, which is a restaurant supply store here in Calgary, Alberta, and get 2 select grade briskets. So for this experiment, I'll be doing 2 select grade and 1 choice. I don't think that's going to affect the outcome that much, though. Don't worry, buddy. Daddy's gonna smoke you real nice. Okay, I've got the 3 briskets, so I'm going to give them a very quick trim, just trimming the fat cap down to around 1/4 inch and getting them all sliced roughly to the same size. Then I'm going to season them with some Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub. This stuff goes great on brisket, and I highly recommend you try it out. You can get it on my website, smoketrailsbbq.com, which is the preferred way that I would like you to purchase it because it helps me out a lot more. But you could also buy it on Amazon and they take a bigger cut, but arguably it's a little bit more convenient, the shipping is faster, and you might use Amazon for everything else. Either way, thank you guys for all your support, and for those of you that have bought my rub, thanks so much. It really helps me out to have this business where I can sell my own products and promote my own products, which I love and which you guys love, so I don't have to promote other people's products as much. Not saying I still won't do that for other brands and products that I like, but it is really nice when I can just sell my own product and I don't have to shill everybody else's brand just to make ends meet. So thank you guys for supporting me and buying my rub. Heading outside, I'm lighting up my 250-gallon offset. I'm running cherry wood today, and 2 of the 3 briskets are going on the smoker completely raw, so they're getting smoked from the very beginning. This is the control brisket and the one that will smoke first and then finish in the oven after 140. At the same time, I'm putting the 3rd brisket into my holding oven to slowly come up to 140 internal without any exposure to smoke. Obviously, it's in a smokeless environment. After one of the smoked briskets got up to 140 degrees internal, I removed it from the smoker and confirmed the temp all over. It was around 145 on average, according to my Thermapen, which, by the way, was signed by Guy Fieri. Yes, funny story. Guy Fieri was a guest judge at the Cowboys Music Festival barbecue competition in Calgary, Alberta during the Calgary Stampede this summer, and I actually won that competition. So I got to meet Guy Fieri, got to try some of his tequila, and he signed my Thermapen. Okay, around the same time, the brisket in the oven also hit 140 to 145 degrees internal, so I removed it and I put that one on the smoker, and then I placed the brisket that was smoked up to 140 internal into the holding oven to continue to cook until it's done. About 8 hours into the cook, I foil boated the 2 briskets still on the smoker because that's how I cook all my briskets on the smoker, so theoretically that could block some of the smoke flavor, but that's just how I do it. And around 11 hours later, I checked on the brisket that was smoked first to 140, then transferred to the oven, and it was probing around 195. Almost there, pretty tender, but not quite there. So I wrapped it in foil with some ghee and transferred it to the holding oven to hold at 150 for around 18 hours until the next day. Finally, around 12 hours in, the 2 briskets on the smoker hit 195, so I wrapped them in foil with ghee and transferred them into the holding oven until the next day. Guys, just a quick reminder, I am giving away a free Oklahoma Joe's Longhorn reverse flow offset smoker. It's the offset smoker that Oklahoma Joe's makes that can be configured for either reverse flow or direct flow format. It's a great offset smoker. I use it all the time. I don't use it when I'm cooking more than 2 briskets, which is what I'm doing in this video, but as long as I'm cooking 1 to 2 briskets, it is just an amazing smoker. It's very affordably priced, and the Longhorn is just a little bit bigger than the Highland offset smoker, and that's why it's one of my favorite Oklahoma Joe's products. So definitely enter for a chance to win this smoker. I'll leave the details in the description section below. Okay, on to the taste test. All right, guys, time for the taste test. This is the control brisket. My plan for this taste test is I am going to smell each brisket, give it a big whiff, and then I'll cut them up and I'll compare the taste. Usually I can smell smoke better than I can taste it, so I think that's gonna be a good indicator of the smokiness level. And then I'm going to take a couple of the slices off camera to my wife, and she's gonna test them, so I'll get some feedback that way, so it's not just me that you guys are trusting in. And that's basically it. Unfortunately, there isn't really a scientifically objective way of testing smoke flavor, so this is the way we're gonna do it. All right, let's cut into this guy. Woo! Let me see. Oh yeah, baby. Woo! She juicy. All right, let's take a sniff. Really smoky, really getting up there in my nostrils. Whew, that's really good. Yeah, I'd say that's a 9 out of 10 in terms of smoke scent. It's really, really smoky. We'll cut this fat off here, and I'll get a super barky piece of the point. Put that over there. That's almost a burnt end. And then I will get a slice of the flat. Really thin one. And I'll put that over there. That's gonna be our control. And that's all I need from this brisket. We'll wipe the board down just to prevent cross-contamination. I know in previous videos when I've done similar experiments, some of you have pointed out that I still have all of the fat on the table, and that can cross-contaminate some of the flavors. So I'll remove as much as I can here for the sake of science. Okay, moving on to the brisket that was smoked first, and then we took it off at 140 and put it in the holding oven. Nice dark exterior, really just as dark as the control brisket that was smoked the entire time. Maybe a little bit lighter in certain areas of the flat, but geez guys, I can't tell much of a difference here. Slice this guy open. This one looks really good actually. Whew. Nice and juicy. Let's take a sniff now. That smells really smoky. That smells just as smoky as the control brisket. I'm gonna smell the other one. The control brisket is slightly smokier. This is still really, really smoky though, which I'm surprised by because we only gave it half the amount of smoking time. Let's cut off a slice here and one on the flat. Okay, moving on to the last brisket. This is the brisket that was smoked second, so smoked after 140 degrees, but before that I took it up to 140 in the holding oven. Looks a little bit less dark actually. There's some brown spots. I can make out some pepper that's still a bit brown. It's not as dark in areas. So I would say this is the least dark out of all of them, but as you guys can see, still super dark. It's like a meteorite, so it's not that different. Let's cut this guy and I'll give you guys a look. Looks nice and juicy. Now let's give this guy a sniff. It's still really smoky. It's like a little bit less smoky than the control brisket, but not by much. I can still smell those same smoke scents. But when I go back to the control brisket, it's getting up in my nostrils a lot more. There is definitely more smoke on the control brisket that was smoked the whole time in the smoker, but this still has a lot of good smoke flavor on it. I wouldn't be able to distinguish it from one of my typical offset smoker briskets that is smoked the entire time on the smoker with the foil boat halfway through, unless you actually told me that this wasn't smoked the whole time. So still really smoky. Okay, taste test time. Let's start with the brisket that was smoked second, because you'd think that it would be the least smoky because we cooked it in a holding oven first until up to 140 and then we smoked it second. Didn't have as much time on the smoker. Smells smoky. Okay, getting a little bit of smoke flavor, not overpowering though. Some of the bark on the flat, a little smoky, but not overpowering. Okay, moving on to the brisket that was smoked first and then finished in my holding oven after 140. About the same level of smoke taste. Yeah, probably about the same. It's smoky, but not overpoweringly so. Now moving to the control brisket that was smoked the whole time on the smoker. This one definitely tastes smokier to me than the last two. It just has more depth of smoke flavor. Now, this is an edge of the brisket, which usually accumulates more smoke, but I did the same thing on the other two slices. Now for the flat slice, I'll just take some of the bark. Yeah, it just tastes slightly more smoky. Okay, so my personal conclusions, I think that the smoked first and the smoked second briskets are about the same level of smokiness. They got some good smoke flavor, but not a ton. And the control brisket that was smoked the whole time, I think it's smokier by a little bit, but it's enough to be noticeable. So now I'm gonna go off screen and get my wife's opinion. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've got 3 different samples of brisket and I'm trying to determine whether any one of them is any smokier than the others. So basically, this is one sample, this is another, this is another. So I just need you to taste like little pieces of each one, basically, and just tell me if you see any difference. I'm gonna give you like some really barky pieces because you're really just eating like the outside.
Yeah.
So I'll give you those 3 right there. So how does it compare to that one?
Smokier than 2, smokier than 1.
You think this one's smokier?
I think this one's smokier.
Okay.
3 smoky.
You think it's smoky? And now I'll just get you to just smell this one. Give a big whiff. And now just compare it to the smells of like this one and just see if you can pick up. Because there's much more surface area when you do it this way, and I find it's easier to detect differences.
It's hard with the little pieces.
Yeah.
Probably the worst person to do that. Get Reggie here.
I know, right? I love how your hands are behind your back. Like,
well, so I don't touch it. And it's sturdiness. This one smells the smokiest.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Okay, so my wife actually was willing to come on camera, so that was great because her impression of the smokiness on the control brisket was that it was way smokier, or at least a little bit smokier than the other 2 samples. And she smelled both briskets behind me, and she also identified that the control brisket was smokier than the other 2. When I did my taste test, I completely agree with her, and I had the same conclusions when I did my taste test. So I think I can say with a high degree of certainty that briskets continue to absorb smoke and build up smoke flavor well past 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think that is a magic number where anything happens. Arguably, the smoke ring stops developing after 140, and I think that we've actually shown that here. I'll just take one of these briskets here. This is the one that was cooked first in the holding oven up to 140, and actually caught me in a lie there, guys. Look at this brisket. You can see that it definitely has a smoke ring. Look on the bottom there. It's got a smoke ring. It looks like it's just as thick as the other ones. We'll look on the point. Again, Look on the bottom, it's got a smoke ring. And the other two briskets have a smoke ring as well. So even the one we took up to 140, it was probably actually taken to a little bit higher than 140 before we put it on the smoker. It still developed a smoke ring. So I think there's still some more stuff going on, and we can't just say 140 is some sort of drop dead number where the smoke ring stops forming and where the brisket stops absorbing smoke, because the smoke ring definitely forms above 140. Maybe there's a higher cutoff temperature. Maybe it's 170, maybe it's 180, where the myoglobin actually denatures enough that it can't react with the smoke and produce the smoke ring, but it's definitely not 140. And we've shown in this experiment that yes, briskets can continue to gradually build up smoke flavor the more we smoke them. The brisket that we smoked the whole time on the smoker was definitely smokier than the other two briskets, which tells me that it's definitely accumulating smoke flavor on the surface well past 140. I'm gonna go so far as to say, based on this experiment, myth busted. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any ideas for future experiments you'd like to see on the show, let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, happy smoking.